Hello everyone. This is Chaster channel. My name is Kirill and we talk about watches here. In perhaps the most diver-oriented Orient line, M4s, recently options for travel and on land have started to appear. These interesting models still come with the same large cases. However, today's variant, as you understand, comes with a textile strap. We'll explore how compatible this is today. The article number of this model is RA-AC0N03E, and you can purchase it, of course, at my store chasterclub.com. And not only that, there you will find a wide selection of Orient watches, particularly the M4 line. All links will be in the description. Of course, upon closer inspection, the watches have a non-diving style, leaning more towards a hiking style, although the case remains exactly the same. This slightly swollen M4 case, satin finished steel with through holes on the lugs, on the sturdy lugs. It also features polished edges, which certainly add aesthetics. And still, there is a small protrusion on the left and a large casing on the right. And on the casing, we already see a black coating, as on the bezel itself. Here is the first difference from previous M4 models. On the bezel, the marking is not minute by minute, but the cardinal directions are marked. This is the first clear indication that the watch is aimed not at depth, but at the surface, so to speak. And it, unlike previous bezels, is bidirectional and clickless. So we can easily rotate it in both directions. I think it won't accidentally move because it's protected on both sides. But be careful, the bezel rotates smoothly without any effort. The flat sapphire glass is recessed slightly below the bezel level and it has an anti-reflective coating. And on the right, of course, is a large crown with a red rim that harmonizes with the red second hand, which is bright and truly attracts a lot of attention. Although it seems the dial is green, a deep forest green shade, khaki shade. Here we see very interesting, very curious indices. And again, a difference from previous M4 models. In general, let me remind those who might have forgotten, we've reviewed the model twice. There was a steel version, the most ordinary, probably basic, and a completely black version on a silicone strap. So there the indices were round with luminescent material. Here the indices are essentially absent. And this image on the white dial, this is the accumulator. Yes, you could say the outlines represent indices, but the design should be very interesting in the dark. The outer rim is also green. The hands remain grayish with luminescent material for a vintage look in a beige shade. And by the way, the marking is done in the same shade. But no, the marking probably leans more towards green on the bezel. I would also note that here we see an absolutely expedition style, yet not without diver attributes, namely 20 atmosphere water resistance. This is indicated on the dial right below the M4 logo. And here is another difference. In previous models, the waterproofing was certified, meaning the inscription divers 200 meters. Here it's just 20 atmospheres. And this means that while the watch is ready to withstand water exposure, it might be slightly less suitable for professional diving. And one more difference from previous M4 models can be observed from the back. The case back remained unchanged, but now its finish is satin. I remind you that last time it was polished, but here they left it satin. And this again refers to the outdoor style, so that during your hikes or travels nothing gets scratched, and even the case back doesn't collect unnecessary scratches. Although it wasn't without polished edges here. Inside is the F6727 movement. I think many in Orient are used to seeing the F6722, but I remind you that the 27th movement is essentially the same, but made specifically for M4s, and it has additional protection in the form of, let's say, shock absorption. That is, you could say these are true shock-resistant Orients. Of course, it's better not to abuse this, but nevertheless, they are significantly more reliable than the same Komatsu or Triton. Here I would note the still not very convenient crown, which when you unscrew it, you really want to pull it out quickly. These protective lugs of the casing slightly interfere with the fingers, but nonetheless, you can unscrew it without any issues. Manually wind in the 0 position in the first, change the date counterclockwise, and then pull out, change the hands. The hands are sensitive. Once again, I note the very long counterweight on the minute hand, which when the minute hand is opposite the hour hand, completely covers, essentially, the hour hand. This moment is interesting too, unusual. I think it might confuse someone, but overall it's not crucial. Personally, it doesn't bother me. At 12 o'clock the date changes, but the hour hand, by the way, does not block the date window, which is nice. The date window, yes, the white frame harmonizes with the indices, and due to the fact that the color is white, the index is symmetrically opposite 9 o'clock in shape, the date does not draw unnecessary attention to itself. Although the black disc, it would seem, should stand out against the green dial. Well, take a look at the luminescent material. This is something new, something fresh. He doesn't behave the same way as in the previous M4s. And these indices, let's say the outlines of the indices in the dark, really look great. Especially look at how they reflect in the edges of the glass. Insanely beautiful. And here they are, finally, on the wrist. They look, of course, massive. After all, the M4's case, these are solid dimensions. The height at the edges of the lugs is 52 millimeters, diameter 45 millimeters. If you include the shroud, then the width is 47.3 millimeters, thickness 13.9 millimeters. And this, mind you, is without considering the strap, which also goes under the case. So here we have absolute M4's dimensions. But while on a bracelet this still looks familiar on a textile strap, it seems to me that it all looks a bit less harmonious. There's some awkwardness. After all, the strap width is 20 millimeters, not even 22. And even when I first took the model in my hands, yes, even saw it in photos on the internet, I immediately realized that, well, it should somehow look slightly gaudy against the backdrop of modern field options on textile straps. But you know what I can say when I put it on my wrist and saw it in person. Overall, not bad. Overall, not bad. It's a matter of taste. After all, the strap harmonizes with the green dial. However, regarding the weight, there's an interesting point here. They are indeed heavier than they actually are. That is, their weight is 124 grams, but in reality, they feel like a full 150, which is rare for watches. Usually, on the contrary, watches feel lighter than their actual weight. But here the story is likely due to the case, which psychologically feels heavy with its dimensions. But the strap itself on the wrist is designed for all sizes, from 14 centimeters to almost 23. Well, you can bend it in different ways here, of course. That's up to your discretion. A field variant, practically a field watch, you could say, and therefore they are ideal for travel, for hiking, for forest areas naturally. Yes, ideally, of course, a dark green strap would be perfect for them, but that's a question for the Orient designers. Overall, they also look quite good even for urban environments, especially in the summer and autumn periods. I think they will be perfect on a bare wrist. With these watches, Orient has picked up on a trend I've noticed lately, where they take a diver series and make it more field-oriented, so to speak. I've observed something similar with Seiko, where they take a diver design but make the watches with a fabric strap, making them more suited for land than for water. But here, of course, it's worth noting that this is one Epson corporation, so you can even see the external resemblance to the Seiko tunas. There's a similar casing on the body. Well, overall, we can see some similarities. However, there is still some charisma present. I definitely like the color of the dial. And in general, M-Force is the line that has always been renowned not only for reliability, not only for high water resistance, but also for interesting bright dial colors. Here, we also have a mechanism with additional protection. And a calendar, sapphire glass, and of course, nice finishing. Well, how else? There really shouldn't be any concerns about the finishing here. After all, this is quite a solid price tag even for this brand. And regarding the bright colors of the dial, it is worth noting that right now in my store, chesterclub.com, there is a whole array of these new M-Forces with cool colors, particularly with the cardinal directions on the bezel. There is an option with a dark texture dial, but there are also regular M-Forces in bright red, orange, insanely beautiful colors. There are also basic models. And I would take a closer look at them if I were you, especially if you need bigger, more rugged and more reliable watches. In conclusion, I would like to know your opinion about this model. Please leave it in the comments under the video. If you liked it, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That's all. Goodbye, everyone.